Hi everyone, I'm new here and, after reading some posts, I thought I'd share my story. It's not easy to talk about, but I think it'll resonate with some of you who have faced betrayal. I'll try to lay it all out as clearly as possible, but bear with me because it's still very raw. I'm a 33-year-old man, and my wife is 36. We've been together for 12 years and married for 8. We have 2 amazing kids who mean the world to me. I always thought we were solid, like any couple. We've had our ups and downs, but I never imagined things would spiral into what they've become. This all started about 6 months ago, over the summer. My wife had recently been promoted at her job. She was excited at first, but soon the stress of her new role became overwhelming. She had taken on a ton of responsibilities, and I could tell it was affecting her. She also works the graveyard shift, which made everything worse. Her sleep was always erratic, and she kept picking up extra hours to help her boss out. I wanted to be supportive, so I made sure to give her space, listen when she needed to vent, and not take things personally when she was in a bad mood. At least, I tried not to, but even with all her stress, something felt off. Over the next couple of months, her behavior started to change in ways I couldn't ignore. At first, it was subtle. She'd come home more irritable and pick fights over seemingly trivial things. I chalked it up to stress and hormones and tried to let it slide. But then, in October, things started to escalate. She was working non-stop, barely spending any time with me or the kids, and her appearance, that's where I noticed the first red flag. Suddenly, she was putting in way more effort to look good before going to work. She'd always cared about her appearance, but this was different. New clothes, makeup, hair done, it felt like she was dressing up for someone. I told myself she was just trying to look professional in her new role. Looking back, I was naive. Our communication, which had always been a strong point, broke down completely. She stopped telling me about her day, her coworkers, or anything else going on in her life. I'd ask her how work was, and she'd give me one-word answers or brush me off entirely. She became distant, withdrawn, and uninterested in me, our kids, and our life together. It was like I was living with a stranger. The breaking point came one night in late October. We had just toured a potential school for her daughter, and I was looking forward to spending some quality time together. Out of nowhere, she told me she had to go to work. It was a surprise to me because she hadn't mentioned it earlier. I tried to hide my disappointment, but it led to a fight. She accused me of not understanding her job's demands, and I accused her of not prioritizing our family. That night, I asked her point blank if there was someone else. She laughed in my face, called me paranoid, and dismissed the idea entirely. I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. A week later, my suspicions got the better of me. I bought an AirTag and discreetly taped it under her car. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know the truth. Her behavior had become increasingly erratic. She'd started hanging out with a group of coworkers she'd never mentioned before, even though I'd expressed concerns about how little time she was spending with us. She'd leave the house after fights, claiming she was going to work or out with friends. I had to know if she was lying. The AirTag confirmed my worst fears. One night, after yet another argument, she left the house saying she was going to call in sick and stay with a friend. Instead, she went to a man's apartment and stayed the night. I'll never forget the sinking feeling in my stomach when I saw the location pop up on my phone. 12 years together, 2 kids, and she was with someone else. When she came home the next morning, I confronted her. At first, she denied everything, but when I showed her the evidence, she broke down and admitted it. She told me she'd been talking to this guy for months, that he was a coworker she'd grown close to. She said she'd confided in him about her stress and struggles, and he made her feel understood in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her excuse: she wanted attention. She felt neglected and unappreciated at home, and this man filled that void for her. Hearing those words was like a knife to the heart. I'd poured everything into our marriage, into being a good husband and father. I'd supported her through thick and thin, and this was how she repaid me. She claimed it was a one-time mistake, but I knew better. The emotional connection had been there for months, and the physical betrayal was just the final nail in the coffin. We tried therapy. We had countless heart-to-heart conversations. I poured my heart out, told her how much she'd hurt me, and begged her to cut ties with him. But she didn't. Months later, she's still in contact with him. At this point, I've accepted that our marriage is over. The betrayal, the lies, the lack of remorse, it's too much to forgive. I'm still reeling from everything that's happened. The woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize. The deception has left me traumatized. I look at my kids and wonder how this will affect them, how I'll explain it to them when they're older. For now, I'm focusing on being the best father I can be and rebuilding my life one step at a time. To anyone else going through something similar, you're not alone. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't define you. It's a long road to healing, but I believe we'll all get there eventually.